the 2023 Toyota GR Corolla. And man, the GR Corolla is a really special car. So I reviewed one whenever they first came out last year, but didn't have a chance to actually drive them on public roads. We were on the track and on the ring road around the track, so I got some kind of driving impressions of, you know, a street type of environment. This is my first time actually living with one, and this is such a special car. That is the bottom line. It feels so special, and any of you who've been following my channel for a while know how I used to love Subaru WRXs, and this car excites the old Subaru WRX fan in me. It's just the same kind of nature to those old school rally legends where you have, you know, not a ton of power down low. Thankfully, it does have pretty short gearing, so it never feels really that slow, but it really comes alive in those higher RPMs, and it just gives you that old school feeling of like you really have to rely on the turbo, because again, this is a 3-cylinder little engine that's relying heavily on a turbo, whereas the other stuff's larger displacement, you know, a little bit more refined and polished. This is still like you got to drive it hard and and really push this thing to you know, have a fun time in it. Otherwise, you know, it's just a little bit underwhelming. But once you're in that boost, that is where this thing gets really, really exciting. And so, as far as the takeaways here, I think just for me, first off, I'm really happy to report that whenever I was on the original drive of this vehicle, I was experiencing some grinding going from first to second at red line. In this vehicle, I've been doing it plenty this week, no grinding. I believe this is a production level model versus the pre-production one I was in last year, so I hope that that was just a, you know, quirk of that car in particular, and this one's been totally great with the transmission. And actually have really grown to love this transmission. No, it is not Honda perfection. It's not quite that good, but it's still really well defined, really nicely weighted shifter still, and just accurate and really well done. I also love how it has the auto rev matching that you can turn on and off with the button there. Now you do have to turn that button on every single time you get in this vehicle whenever you want to do that. But, you know, so my ritual in this vehicle is to turn that on and then also change the torque split, which is another way this really reminds me of the old STIs and Evos with having the adjustable torque split. So I've been driving around most of the week in the 30-70 mode, where 70% of the power is going to the back there. And it's really impressive how, in, you know, like a Civic Type R, you're marveling at how, wow, the limited slip diff puts all the power really well through the front end. But with this, you are just marveling at how this thing really pushes through the corner so well. Whenever you get on the gas, even if you get on the gas too early coming out of a corner, this all-wheel drive system, it really does enhance the fun of this beyond, you know, the front-wheel drive stuff like the Type R. It's a whole nother level having the all-wheel drive system. And, you know, you have like a torque vectoring all-wheel drive system in the Golf R, but I think because of the boostier nature of this and the scrappier, more raw feeling of this compared to the Golf R, this is more fun than the Golf R to me. It's more exciting. Yes, the Golf R will probably do a faster 0 to 60 and be more refined, and I'll talk more about the Golf R a little bit more in a second, but we're going to stop first so that we can enjoy this back road here without any traffic. So, I mean, I love that. I also love, like, you can hear the gearbox whenever you're shifting. You don't hear that in the others. It just has this more raw experience in all the ways. So anyway, first gear, flooring it with the wheel turn, and it's, you know, staying stuck too, I have to say, with these Pilot Sport 4 tires, 235 wide, this thing is staying stuck the whole time. And I also love the steering is lighter than the Type R. It's lighter than basically all the other competitors, and so it really just allows the thing to feel a little more darty. It feels a little more eager to dive into the corners, and I actually like the fact that it's lighter. Yes, it might feel less sporty to some people, and I do have it in the sport mode, which does make it a little bit heavier. There's also a custom drive mode, so you can have it lighter, heavier, depending on your preference. But I just love that it's a little bit lighter, and the whole thing just, it feels so fun. And it just, the GR Corolla has this certain thing that I can't really put my finger on specifically, but it just feels special, and it has this just undefined but very apparent feeling to it that it's just so fun. I can't put it into words. I just spent a week with the Integra Type S. Fantastic, really good car as well. But I think as a, you know, all-around vehicle, I think this actually, in some ways, is a little more exciting than that as well. Now, that has a better exhaust system, I will say, and a few other things. And I'll get to a few of my complaints in the GR Corolla here in a minute. It's not all praise. You know, those cars certainly do certain things better, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. But I think that this, it's just, again, it's this old school feeling that I think if you're coming out of a WRX, or you miss your WRX or your old STI or your old Evo, I really think that you're going to love the way that this drives, and it's going to be a kind of driving experience that you can't match in a Type R or an Integra Type S, or even a Golf R, honestly, in that matter, because this is just, it's just that very boosty, very scrappy nature. You know, you're still in just a basic Corolla interior here. This is the Core that I have for the week here. You know, nothing exciting from a luxury standpoint, but that's the fun of these cars, their simple nature. I also love those whooshy sounds. I don't know if you're picking that up here on the camera or not, but it has this old school blow-off sound that you would want from something like this, but yet this is such a rare thing that none of the other competitors really have this much wastegate sound. But getting into the sounds, one other thing that leads me into some of the complaints here with the GR Corolla. First off, the exhaust is really boomy, and it's very bassy and throaty, and it sounds aftermarket, so if that kind of thing excites you, great. But, you know, for me, I think, you know, it doesn't have, I mean, it has some sound to it, but I still think it could use a more distinctive tone. And so it's just, especially whenever you're starting it up first thing in the morning, I mean, it is drony. It drones so bad until you get it up to temperature. Then the drone goes away, thankfully, but it's a bassy, drony kind of exhaust. And I didn't say the Integra Type S easily has this beat with its active exhaust. It sounds fantastic, doesn't ever bother you in the slightest. And you know, the Civic Type R doesn't really have much exhaust note to speak of at all, so I think that went too far the other direction. This is kind of a happy medium in a way, but I still would love to see an active exhaust on these someday. And another thing, speaking of active stuff, you know, you don't have adaptive dampers. And I will say that the Integra Type S obviously wins there as well. Now that is, again, a luxury branded vehicle, so probably not a fair fight. I will say, though, I think this actually feels a little softer to me than the Civic Type R. Now, I've only driven the Civic Type R for a day for the new FL5 generation, so you know, driving one of those for a week, maybe my impressions will change a little bit more. But from my memory of that car and my recent drive in the Integra, I will say that this actually is a little softer than the Type R, I'm pretty sure, and just honestly was totally fine for a daily driver. So if you're worried about the ride being too stiff in a GR Corolla, I wouldn't worry. Even though you don't have adaptive dampers, I really wouldn't worry. It, to me, was totally fine. Again, it'll come down to, you know, what you're getting out of as far as what you're used to, what you expect. But you know, I think that someone that's going for a vehicle like this will not be upset by the ride. I think it's totally fine. But a few of the things that might make this car a little hard to live with. First off is, you know, just the fact that you're going to have way less backseat space and cargo space than the Civic Type R and the Integra Type S. And even the Golf R, I would argue, probably has a tiny bit more space. You know, the backseat, though, it's not bad. I mean, I still fit behind myself with a couple inches of spare there. Just one thing, you know, it's a small car. So I would say if you're looking for the best practicality, clearly the Type R and the Integra are going to be much better as far as livability, you know, versatility. And it is really nice having the huge hatches in those and the nice big back seat. I will say, though, at least you have 3 seat belts in the back here, unlike the 2 that you're stuck with in the Integra and the Civic. So obviously it's not a very roomy back seat, but you can technically squeeze 3 people in the back of this, and you can't do that in those other vehicles. That's the only versatility thing this does have over those. One positive thing that I mention about the practicality of this vehicle is that I actually didn't miss the armrest here this week. You know, a lot of people were like, oh, why did they get rid of the center armrest? And, you know, it is a strange choice, but honestly, I never, with these seats hugging you in so nicely, I've never once been like, wow, my arm's just hanging here. I'm too busy either shifting, having a good time, whatever. And even on the longer highway drives and stuff that I did this week, I didn't mind not having the center armrest there. One thing I did mind, though, a little bit over the course of the week was the fact there's no illuminated window switches aside from the driver's side front window. Is the only one that's illuminated. I think this is a general Corolla thing that I somehow was unaware of, even though I've spent weeks with other Corollas. I didn't remember them not having illuminated window switches, but only the driver's side one is illuminated. So trying to like unlock the doors to let in friends in a dark you know, parking lot at night, you know, I had to like pull out my phone and be like, all right, where is that unlock switch? And, you know, just a little weird cost-cutting thing. It's like, you know, you can't illuminate all of the window switches, you know, just minor little things like that that were a little bit annoying. But, you know, this interior obviously is not, you know, super nice or anything, but it is great that you can have like a heated steering wheel and, you know, you have the heated seats here with this one having this weather package for like $500. Very reasonable. JBL stereo for anyone who's curious, you know, that's $770 combined with the wireless charging pad. It actually sounded pretty good. If you like music, like, it's probably worth the upgrade. It's not amazing or mind-blowing or anything, and if, the Integra Type S, that ELS Studio stereo, and even the Bose one and the Civic Type R, I will say, sounds better than this, but it's still a decent stereo, and not a huge upcharge for it, so probably worth, getting if you want. One of the last few things to mention here, though, is my fuel economy that I got over the week. Not like anyone really cares too much in this segment, but it's actually pretty impressive to me. So I've been driving this vehicle for 140 miles now, and these are rated at 21 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, and 24 combined. And in my week of driving here, which I was getting on it a lot, I was really pushing this thing, having a lot of fun with it, I'm averaging 24.1 mpg, so I'm hitting that combined figure. And I did do some highway driving, but certainly not a 50-50 split. I did definitely way less highway than city, and I'm still getting the combined figure. So this is actually overperforming, even with me beating the snot out of this thing. It is still overperforming, and that is something, especially if you're coming out of Evos and STIs and stuff, where, that is a huge upgrade in fuel economy over those old things, which, struggle to even get 20 mpg on a good day. And so, it's great that you have pretty good efficiency thanks to that 3-cylinder, and I'm assuming it's just whenever you're not on this thing where it's just so incredibly fuel efficient. And so a nice little perk there, and might actually be a little more economical even than a regular WRX. Regular WRX, I think I struggled to even get 20 mpg in that the week that I had with that. So, nice little perk here. You get some pretty good fuel economy for the kind of performance you get. It's really addicting how that rear, this one does have the performance package with those limited slip dips front and rear, and that torque split being 30/70. It really is so much fun with the way this thing rotates. It is uncanny, and I appreciate it on track as well, but out on the street here, it really comes in handy a good bit, and I can only imagine how much fun this thing would be to drive in snowy conditions as well. So these would be such a fun daily driver for sure. But the last thing I have to mention here, because I know it's going to be the main thing in the comments, is markups. Yes, these are great cars, and they'd be great if you could just get one, and they're super hard to get. And I understand, I get it, they are hard to get, and there are a lot of markups and a lot of horrible dealers. The majority of them are terrible dealers that are charging huge markups and ruining the value proposition of what is really a very well-priced car. This one, as tested, is just over $40,000, like $40,120 or something. And at that price point, if you could get these at MSRP, it makes total sense. It's a nice undercut over, $6 grand cheaper than a Civic Type R. Yet you have all-wheel drive. that has, again, the nicer materials. There's metal switches and more space and a little bit more refinement and all that in the Honda. But, $6 grand cheaper, and you have all-wheel drive. And then, it's $6 grand or so cheaper than a Golf R as well. And so Toyota did such a good job on this car, and they did such a good job with the pricing, and it really sucks that the dealers are ruining it. And yes, Toyota could build more, but can they? These are hand-built. They did all these extra welds. It's not a ordinary Corolla. They can't churn these out like RAV4s. This isn't some artificially limited production or anything. Like, they're trying to build as many of these as they can. They actually announced for the 2024 circuits, they're building 100 more than the year prior and bringing the circuit edition back, even though they had only planned to do it for 1 year. But they're trying to meet demand. They're trying to build these things and get these in the hands of the enthusiasts at a reasonable price. And so the only thing I can say is, it really is going to come down to how badly you want one of these. If you are someone who wants to just go around to your local dealer around the corner and have one of every trim and color right there on the lot to pick from and drive home in the same day, this is not the car for you. And special cars like this will never be for a buyer like that, because it's never been easy ever in history to buy a special car, especially one that's not produced in large numbers, easily. They've never been easy to get. This isn't a new phenomenon in the 2020s. They've always been hard to get. There's always been markups on STIs for years and years, on Evos and all that kind of stuff. None of these things were ever easy to get, so this should not be some kind of shock. And I can just say that if you're struggling to find a new one, I have, even in just my local area, I've found several for sale used, and you can get these in the low 40s with just a couple thousand miles on them. Yes, that is a few grand more than the $40,000 sticker that this has, but I think, to me, as long as you're keeping these under the price of a Civic Type R or a Golf R, to me, it is still a solid value proposition and a great buy. And that is kind of where I'm going to leave it on the pricing of this. I will also add, though, that Civic Type R's, from at least my glance online, it seems like they have more markups, they're harder to get, and Honda dealers are even worse than the Toyota dealers typically as far as markups, and markups being even higher. So Type R, you know, gonna have the same problem, and Golf R seems like they're starting to soften up on pricing, and I even saw one advertised for a discount. So maybe, you know, Golf R could be the real value ruiner of this. If you can get a Golf R for 45 or something like that, that has heated and cooled seats, leather, a moonroof, some extra refinement, the adaptive dampers, you know, all those types of things, and still comes in a manual, thankfully. You know, that could really, you know, be the only thing that upsets the value proposition of this. But I also have to add that the Golf R wasn't as fun as this was, and in my week with the Golf R, I felt kind of lackluster with the manual. It wasn't as exciting as I was hoping it would be, and I think this definitely gives me the fizz a lot more than that manual Golf R. DCT, the DSG transmission is really what the Golf R was set up for. You can tell that in the way they engineered the manual version, in my opinion. It's still great, but this to me is greater. But if you can get one of these, you know, at 40 or around that, if you're one of those people that is willing to hunt one of these down, you know, you gotta pick up the phone, call dealers. You gotta be willing to travel. I've bought 4 out of my last 5 car purchases out of state. It's not the end of the world. If you want one of these, go out of state. Get away from your crappy local dealers and find a good dealer that's selling these. You might have to wait on a wait list. It might take you a while, but it is possible to get one of these in the 40s without, you know, too much hardship, and I truly believe that, and it's just going to come down to how much you want to work to get one of these. But I think that, you know, it is possible, and especially if you're someone who's been a diehard, you know, you've already been on a wait list, I will say that for those of you who are waiting for one of these, it is worth the wait. It is a special car, and yes, you can run out and buy a WX tomorrow from your local lot for $2,000 under sticker and have every color of the rainbow to pick from, but the WX is not a special car. This is a special car. That's why they can't churn them out like RAV4s. Whereas the WX, they can churn them out. And, you know, I also will add, you know, speaking of the WX, a comparable WX that has all the same equipment this does is still going to run you $36,000 with cloth seats. I mean, so you're only $4,000 more with more performance, the adjustable all-wheel drive system, the auto rev match, downshifts. You know, there are so many things. I know there's been a lot of hype that's been killed because of all the markups and stuff, but I still think this car is worthy of the hype. It is a fantastic car, and I think that the people that are going to do the work, that are willing to really hunt these out, will be rewarded greatly. These are fantastic cars, and they deserve to have the hype and the love, and not be ruined by crappy dealer markups, because it's possible. And if I needed something with all-wheel drive and you know, 4 doors and a manual, this would hands down be my pick. You know, I mean, the front-wheel drive stuff's great. It's going to come down to, you know, how much snow you drive in, and, you know, how you feel about the all-wheel drive and how badly you want that. I love the Integra Type S, but that's, you know, $51,000. If you can get one of these in the low 40s, I think it's hands down the best value of the hot hatch bunch these days. And I just, yeah, absolutely love them. So I just wanted to put that out there, you know, because it's so upsetting to see all the markups, and I'm right there with you, but it's also upsetting to see all the comments just bashing on this car as a result of something that isn't Toyota's fault, that isn't this car's fault at all. And it's just a fantastic car, and it's worth the hunt if you want one. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the GR Corolla. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing me here with this GR Corolla to review for you guys today. Thank you all very much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. Stay tuned. I will be getting a Civic Type R at some point soon here to have for a week, and I'll talk more about this comparison in that video as well. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.